one of the things that I do in my morning practice is, just say, show me how to serve, 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 and put that out to the world, the energies that be. And, um, for me, I feel like you and I have always had a connection that has felt meaningful for me, and that, I rely on you and our friendship to be able to talk about the stuff that I can't talk about with everyone else. That I trust your groundedness, I trust your presence, I trust the open-minded perspective that you bring, that expands beyond the surface level. And that feels really meaningful in these times. And that we or you, us together aren't afraid to look behind the veil and live our life in accordance with our values and what we believe to be meaningful. And that feels really significant these days.
Yeah, it's an honor to hear you say that as a friend and return, similar sentiment. That I think one thing we want to discuss here is, or maybe explore within ourselves, is the pieces that allow you to be as audacious as you've been with your coaching and with your mentoring work and with your writing. And it's really inspiring. And it's nice to
Mm,
feel like there's somebody else out there. I know a lot of people can relate to this. There's like, is this really the way I'm supposed to live my life? Whatever that might be. And it's sometimes really striking how easy conformity can become. And you're very much a person who's developed conviction in his way
mm,
of living and seeing and embodying that, I personally have taken a lot of strength from. And so,
mm,
as I'm sure the folks who cross paths with you in your various faculties will.
mm.
And I guess, a starting point for me would be, how is that working for you, that daily invitation? What are you
Yeah.
seeing from that so far?
Mm. Or one, just thank you for that. Again, like the warm fuzzy that, it feels like, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of emotion in that, Jesse, just a feeling really seen.
Mm,
And I think I spent a lot of my life not feeling seen.
mm,
And that acknowledgement and that what you just offered was something that I was so hungry for so long in my life. I mean, it's what you just said, the easy ability to slip into conformity, the easy ability to slip into what everyone around me has been saying so long, which is conform, which is, and I didn't understand myself for so long. I was just guided by some inner feeling of there's got to be more to life than what's at the surface level. But I didn't have that, exactly what you just said, of what we bring for each other as a place of saying like that, just of feeling seen, of feeling acknowledged, of feeling like, okay, I can care at the level that I care. I can ask questions at the level I ask questions. I can live an alternative life and it's not crazy and wild and broken, but it's actually really meaningful. And so for me, that really is the starting point. And to answer your question, it's um I'm hopeful, that's part of the service is for me. I mean, just one is like serving my own soul and serving my own journey of like, I don't know how to do it differently. I've never been good at doing it differently. And I can't say I've been fabulous at doing it this way, but it feels aligned. And it feels like it's a different kind of success metric. And and being connected in that way to what I believe is what I say, the man I know myself to be. I guess I hope I needed that impact for myself. And so if we can shine light on and provide that kind of friendship connection for others so that they may be more connected to themselves, like that feels meaningful to me.
mm. Yeah.
and it
Mm,
feels, yeah, and it feels like a, chat, just I enjoy the challenge of that.
mm, yeah. When you say that, I just touch into how much I'm sitting with like feeling a lack of belonging in adult community and family
Mm,
community.
mm,
Not necessarily isolated or exiled, just feeling like I have this perception, and I wonder if people listening can relate. I have this perception that everybody around me is in a closer community than I am.
mm,
And I don't know that it's true.
mm, mm.
Um, Yeah. So to think that you and I would be some sort of example, it feels a little false to me from it's like, yeah, I want that, but I don't actually have that in the way that that I know community can be and the little glimpses I've had and the little tastes of it. And I think a lot of that's my personal work to continue to
Mhm,
forge, but yeah, I wonder if people can relate to that, that everybody's got something better. Everybody's got closeness. Um, and that's confusing because on one hand, that's what I wish for the world. I think that's part of the medicine that's going to bring us into one possible, maybe more hopeful future timeline.
mhm,
Among the many possibilities, I think the
mhm,
one that's more hopeful to me is that we live differently in community, that they're more from a sense of offering our gifts through generosity and connection, um, rather than transaction.
mhm.
Um, and I've
I'm
had little
curious about,
glimpses of it.
okay. Yeah, yeah.
I want to be an example in the way that you're saying, by also being transparent, that I feel a little lonely.
Mm, mhm,
Not in the sense of friendship or one-on-one connections, in the sense of the broader we.
mm, mhm. Do you feel lonely? One of the things I often think about loneliness is it's not about not being with other people, it's about not being with ourselves. And, and my sense is that you have, that you have a pretty rich connection with yourself, at least.
At least I would think so, but yeah, I just got back from a week-long trip, and the front half of that trip was a solo writing retreat that
Mm,
my family and myself, I was graced to do. I just got a little place in the mountains, and
mhm.
it was idyllic.
Yeah,
Um, and it was awesome in the solitude serving ways of the writing and the just self-reflection and being in nature. But I also missed my son and my spouse, quite a bit.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And now I'm
yeah.
here, I'm back, and I don't feel that missing, but I also don't feel that connection to a greater community. I'm moving it a little
Mhm.
beyond the family system.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so I say all that not because we're gonna delve deeper into my personal work unless it serves,
Mhm,
the greater conversation, but just that, to me, that for me, that's emblematic of the social patterning that I see happening in the world. And I would
yeah.
imagine if you asked 100 people, I would guess that they have a similar experience. I would guess that they don't feel as connected as I imagine they do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm intrigued by that. Your
Yeah.
sense of what you're seeing in community around you, and what you're sensing is they are having that you're missing, and and what it is that you're craving.
Um, what I see is people that gather in groups with consistency and with a depth of life involvement.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I think we're returning. to a denuclearized possibility, you know. Um, and I live in a very nuclearized part of the country. It's just people have means, we don't need each other.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that can be actually a like desirable sort of fallacy that we have created community, but we're all sort of isolated in these little silos. And I know
Mhm.
that's not a novel idea, but it's been something that's been a little surprising at this stage of life for me.
Yeah.
And I wonder how much of it is coming back to what we started with, this idea that sometimes we need each other to question, is this the way we want to do things? Because it doesn't have to be this way. And I've certainly started
Hmm.
to dip into some relationships where people are like, oh yeah, we could do something different.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that's it. That's probably all I need to say about it. I just I wonder how that
Yeah.
relates to
How
our
are you
work.
saying? Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, to me, there, like, I see a through line, and I'm curious, like, how you're seeing, like, what are people doing when they're gathering that you're feeling like they're connected in ways.
Yeah, well, some of it's just the story I make up from what I hear. That I talk to people who I feel like we've been in a circular community, like a fringe community. Maybe our kids are at the same school, and over 4 or 5 years, I'm thinking, gosh, we probably really have a lot in common. It would be meaningful to explore that. And then,
Hmm.
we make an attempt, it's never reciprocated.
Hmm.
It just and then you see that same unit, and they're like, oh yeah, these are our best friends, we do everything together, we go on vacation together, we and I'm like, huh,
Hmm.
okay, so it is happening.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you I think part of my story in my life is in many ways feeling isolated and feeling a sense of loneliness because and Hadley and I, my sweetheart, like, we're aware that we do things differently. We aren't. We were just saying last night that most of our days are spent in silence, meaning there's not podcasts, radio, music, noise happening in the background, even as we work on our house or we do whatever it is. We are mostly in silence. We don't drink, we don't do drugs, we don't self-medicate in really any ways. We do a lot of meditation. There's things that we notice ourselves doing that both of us independently have said, like, it's been a journey of, there aren't a lot of us around, and there's a level of, that um, I see people gathering. I also hear about the loneliness that is out there, and I also know that there is a lot of, um, that people are looking for more depth. That people are looking for the kind of connection that feels really meaningful and juicy, and that there's an easy pathway to fill lives with, um, adequate connections so as not to be alone, to fill lives with, um, connections that perpetuate a certain lifestyle, um, that probably have some meaning, and just my general sense is that people are looking for more depth but afraid to go into those places.
Yeah, it's a fair assumption. And I also think
Yeah,
there are communities forming. I mean, especially when you go down the rabbit hole of Charles's work and see some
sure.
of the, like, the NOS community, and then the extension of that are some of these in-person, retreats and festivals. Like, I admittedly, I've dipped my toe in the water of some of that, but I haven't jumped in.
Hmm.
And so that's out there.
Hmm.
And so it's probably the further work around this is me exploring part of that. But when you come back to this notion you texted me about yesterday, the lost boys, and
Hmm.
some of your work is more, boy to man specific. Um, I was reflecting the other day as my son heads into this sort of middle school journey
Mm, hmm.
of discovery, which can be quite a wild ride for most of us. You know, I had a lot of friends and associates and teammates, and I was never without status or friendship on some level. I never really felt like I belonged.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've heard a lot of people say that. Have
Hmm.
you what have you encountered in working with, you know, the younger, the Gen Z, almost Gen Alpha clients and folks in your programs and just people in your community? You know, is that being echoed in its own version in 2026?
I mean, I think yes. I think that there is a there's a searching for purpose and meaning, and there's also a numbness to it in the sense of there's so much media around these days and so much easy access to things that they're saying like here's what's meaningful, here's what's important, getting a lot of likes on Instagram, getting the to me I've always you know I've just noticed that when you get a like, when you get a heart on something that you write, when something I write, something I post, it has a, oh, people are it's not um, accidental that those things are meaningful and that we want to search for those because there's a desire for belonging. There's a big desire for belonging. And I think what I would say, Jess, what I've been really tuned into this week in the last maybe month or so, because you texted back and said that, what are the things that you're struggling with and what are the things that you're excited about? And maybe mine are wrapped up. I don't know exactly, but the thing I've been really wrestling with is or seeing is, I think you and I, we both grew up with a lot of opportunities and a lot of, let's say, privilege and a lot of resource. I went to private schools my whole life. Um, Plenty of opportunity for strong education. College wasn't a question for me. It was just a thing you do after high school. It wasn't ever like, are you going to college? I was like, no, that like you go from eighth grade to ninth grade, you go from 12th grade to college. Like that was just the
Given.
trajectory
Mhm.
given, not totally assumed. Like I never had a different question in my life about that. Was just what education was. And you know, I I had some pretty significant experiences. One is I'm not good at school. I'm not good at school. And I never fit in. I always felt really dumb. I always felt really like I didn't fit in. And there was always a sense of what you were describing, which is, oh, there's all these social groups. There's all these other people who feel like they're doing something that I'm not doing, and they're feeling included. They're feeling smart. They're feeling capable. They're feeling like they have friends. And I always, well, I don't remember feeling that having that experience. I remember having the experience of, wow, everyone else seems like they know something I don't know,
Mhm.
or they're doing something that I can't figure out. And and like they're the cool guys. They got it all together. I don't. And then in college, I had some really significant experiences um, of, my dad died my first year of college, so I'm in a lot of grief. I'm in a lot of trying to figure out what to do with that. One of the what I'm realizing is like a really significant thing was that I was able to stay in the grief of that and in depth of that and not numb it. Like I didn't go drink or smoke or do the college party thing and
Wow.
just go ballistic and lose myself. I somehow was able to really stay in the darkness, and it was really, really dark. Like that was the darkest, most painful time of my life. And I somehow was able to stay in that. And we could just I can share about why and how and all those sorts of things. It seems like just something about my deep value of what I care about in the world was coming through, and I was listening to it, and I was able to listen to it and hang in some really challenging places. But I was wildly alone. Like I went to therapists, I went to teachers, I went to different, and trying to understand what was going on inside of me. And most of their messages back were just comply. Like we said really early on.
Mm.
Just can we stop trying to be so different? Stop, whatever you're doing, do it differently, because it's you're making yourself lonely. And I was like, well, no one's, like when you offered, being seen, like I didn't feel like I was seen ever.
Right. So the advice didn't have a lot of credibility because even though it sounded like it was coming from a caring place to relieve your sense of isolation, it failed in its ability to see where that isolation was coming from and what was the where it was going. Really, you had a vision. The isolation was like a process and a greater vision, and you needed somebody to maybe help frame that for you. Yeah.
Absolutely. And what I now can see from here is I was in an initiation. I was in a death. Part of me, the young part of me was dying.
Yeah.
I was in the dark night of the soul, or whatever you want to call it. Like this bigger, deeper part of me was wanting to emerge and come forth. The part of me that values, that really cares deeply, that feels integrity and honor and all that stuff that you offered at the beginning, of standing for, standing in the place of speaking truth, and like that was trying to come through. And all I was getting was I was like getting, can you stop doing that, please? But there
Mm.
weren't there wasn't an adult or adults, men or anyone in the room, able to really hold me in the initiation, hold me in the, like, yeah, what you're feeling is like you're feeling, and you aren't doing all those other things of numbing and going crazy. You're actually in the right, you're like you're in this beautiful initiatory space of
Yeah.
coming alive. Like that didn't happen for me. And so, and I wasn't willing or able to comply and just go along with what everyone else said. So then I was lonely. I was alone. And I sense that that's part of where we sit today, which is to say, there's a lot of depth. There's a lot of, we can see things happening around, and still perpetuates this place of where, like, can we build community around this? Can we get to this place? And hold ourselves in the challenges of the day, where August is like, help him hold in the difficulty of middle school,
Yeah.
and see that the little boy is dying and the adolescent is emerging. And that's hard and uncomfortable, and it's good, and it's exactly the work he's going to do, needs to be doing, way more than math.
Yeah. And it might be a reflection of what our entire species is going through, some sort of initiatory process.
I would say 100% we are. I mean, I feel like the culture's in a death, like we're in a death spiral
Yeah.
of all this, all the discomfort, all the craziness of how we treat each other, how we treat the world, how we do things. We can't. It's like we just keep kicking the can down the road of all these different things of like, oh well, we'll figure it out when we get there. But the thing is that, like, we're doing a lot of harm, and we know we are. I think we know we are, and so like we're in that fire,
Yeah.
and we aren't good at it. Like we aren't individually good at it, and we aren't culturally good at it. So we just keep trying to pretend that everything's okay and hope that things will, change, or technology will figure it out, or, like,
Right. Right.
whatever,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Like find a comfortable path. Yeah.
Yeah, let's
When
find a
when
comfortable path.
it sort of feels like the discomfort is the initiatory, similar to what you experienced your freshman year. There's a framing. There's so many different frames on this moment in the world, and there's so much in certain frames are pitched with a high amount of threat. Like if you don't see the world this way, um, you are bad. You are more harmful. You are sometimes there are still some factions of the world that are, sort of stuck in this, like, the story of separation, the kind of binary of, like, if you're on this side, you're helping. If you're on that side, you're harming. There's so much stake involved in the worldview we adopt. And I think that the way we're framing this moment will play into pruning potential future timelines. And something I'm writing about in my sequel, Transcendence 2, is this
Yeah,
idea
love it.
that the government process is trying to, not in a malicious way, right, in a survivalist way, sort of pruning future timelines that could be the most devastating by affecting the way people remember the past,
Mm.
and by tracking um, certain markers socially and environmentally. And I say that as slightly as a shameless plug for my writing, but
Yeah.
also because I was connecting it for the first time into sort of a present day understanding. That
Yeah.
there are probably, a multitude of possibilities, possible paths. And I like this idea that the future is not inevitable. It's a choice.
Mhm.
And choice
Yeah.
requires courageous self-listening, self-guidance. And I think, I'm on the verge where that's becoming really strong in me. And
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
next step is to sort of let some of my old self die so I can step further into the greater. You're getting really
Yes.
excited.
Yeah.
Finish what I was going to say, because you seem like you have a good grasp on it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, yeah.
No,
I feel
seriously, I
like,
kind of want to see where you
no,
take that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I feel like both through your writing and in your book, like you are having to explore ideas and connections that are really profound and powerful and beautiful, and one of the things I always hope from you for you is for you to see um um how beautiful the energetic offer that you bring to the world is,
Hmm.
and to really believe in it and stand in it and know that, yes, there are, you offer alternative perspectives, you offer things that are provocative and are important and are meaningful, but and are deeply thought out, and just like that, that there are, I mean, you can't write the book that you wrote without having a huge amount of heart and care,
Hmm.
and an incredible insight and groundedness, in the sense of considering all, like, not like considering all different perspectives.
Hmm.
And so you believing in that and bringing that, letting that old part of you die that was wounded by for bringing that, or whatever it was, and stepping so courageously into that place, to me, is really exciting.
Hmm. My turn to be seen, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard for me to take that in, and I really love hearing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It seems right on.
Totally. I
I
mean,
look,
yeah.
it exposes all the little ways that I'm hiding in my life. And if you're listening to this, can you relate to the ways that you hide as being comfortable? For instance, like, we moved into this new town, and we're in this HOA. We're not on land with regenerative ag and artists in residency and volunteer organic housemates and stuff like we were hoping to do.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Hmm.
instead we're getting targeted for having clover in our lawn and fined. And it's like, how upside down is this? Do you know, like, how good that is for the world to have clover?
Right. I heard, right, right. No, I
Right.
just recently, did we talk about this? The clover part? The clover is really, really good for you. Like,
It's
people used
amazing.
to eat clover as a nourishing, back in the day, it was what lawns were, because you would like,
Yeah.
it's like super greens,
It
whatever the
feeds the it feeds
AG1 or whatever.
it feeds the soil, and brings nutrient biodiversity to the whole ecology. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And we were
Yeah.
getting fined for having it.
Yeah, right. So I mean, right. I mean, this is crazy, and I think the way that came down. I don't think I'm making up a story here. Is that, back in what, World War I, World War II, something like that. There was a whole bunch of chemicals that we couldn't use in the war because the war ended. And so the chemical company had all this stuff and they realized that it killed clover. So they created a campaign that then took this thing that everybody had and was good for the soil and good for people and said, no, we got to kill clover and put in grass.
Yeah. Because we
I'm
want
just like,
nice,
serious.
neat little lawns. Yeah.
Right. And now you're getting fined for it. Like this is the upside down
It's
world.
upside
Like
down.
it's like I just like to think like we fucking know better.
We know
Like,
better.
come on. Like, come on. We know better. And we keep
Yeah.
pretending that Roundup is good to pour on our lawns so that we don't have fucking clover and dandelions.
Yeah. And it's
You
killing the
know?
whole world.
And it's killing the whole world and it's poisoning us.
Yeah.
And then we get outraged about it. And it's just like, fuck, seriously. So this, like, I feel, like part of the, so what happened, so after, like, I'm in college, I just wanted to, like, there's another piece of the story. I don't know if you know this story, but I ran for student body president because I went to a committee. I somehow ended up in the Hobart Student Association. I don't know exactly how, but I ended up there. I go to a committee meeting and there's no, like, everyone looks at me. It was a really high profile committee. It was like the curriculum committee establishing what all incoming freshmen do, and there was like this big deal. And they hadn't seen somebody from Hobart at the meeting for a long time. Right. So the student government wasn't doing what it was supposed to be doing. And the women's student government, of course, was there. And the way that I like to think of it is really realizing they were being citizens in the most beautiful, like, responsible citizens, showing up and doing their duty and being caring and thoughtful. And the men weren't. Like, we did not have our shit together. So I decided to run for president of the student body because I was just like, we got to do better than this. Like, this is ridiculous. This is a whole bunch of people with a lot of things, that are doing it because it looks good on their resume. That is why people are the president and vice president of the student government, but we aren't doing anything. So the whole process of like the election was a fiasco of ethical and just procedural violations of them screwing it up epically because they didn't know what they were doing. And so my whole campaign was based on just let's just show up in the world as good citizens, do the stuff we're supposed to do, stop pretending that there's all this, that clover's bad. Obviously that wasn't it, but that piece. And I was the only one to hand in a petition on time to run for all 4 offices. I was running for president. And the administration and the president of the college told me to stand down, essentially. So here I am trying to bring integrity, care, presence into this process, heart. And from the get-go, the whole thing I was running on was screwed up, and I wasn't, and I was told to comply again. And for me, and it just kept going. And eventually I lost the election, which is fine. But it was this whole thing of here's a dude, in a school trying to bring integrity, heart, care, what is right about the world. And from every angle is being told that that's not okay. And I've really realized, like, that's the education that is happening in so many places. Is that it's about appearance and not about substance. And that when someone like myself stands up and says, like, hey, wait a second, hey y'all, like, we need to do this differently, I I get shut down and quieted. And it was just like that to me is, that's part of what's happening. And that's part of the Lost Boys. Right? Because when you try to stand up for what's right in schools and institutions, like, these are the resourced Lost Boys. Not the ones who are under-resourced, sitting, that aren't going to college, who are getting wrapped up in all kinds of, like, these are the ones who become leaders and become,
they start to shape society
start
through
to
the
shape,
various institutions and avenues. Yeah.
Right. And related to your, like, all the future and the possibilities coming out. Well, there's a conscious, unconscious, let's quiet the voices of change.
Mm. Well, I think you just named a collective experience of stand down, and we don't have to get into the critique of our sort of collapsing um, democratic systems if they ever were truly democratic. That's a whole other debate. But
Yep.
the idea that I think so many people can relate to, um, the last 50, probably since like the 60s, JFK, Woodstock, like that was when we had sort of the birth or the groundswell of uh, like a different potential future that some
Yep.
would say was kind of snuffed out, right? Um, and I'm not commenting on whether that was good or bad, but just to say like there was something there in the energy of the 60s.
Mhm.
And then we kind of went a different direction. We sort of like doubled down on modernity, comfort, science, technology. And um, I will give an opinion that I think like that has largely created so many of the crises or contributed to the crises that we face
Mhm.
today. And I think
Mhm.
most people can relate to this energy of stand down in one area of institutional knowledge or another, whether it's the school system, the local government, the federal government. Certainly, people, as you alluded to, who aren't as privileged as us in terms of social rank
Mhm.
or the family resources that we were born into, like feel it in all those ways, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think what I'm interested in is what do we do when systems of power become so strong that the attempt to influence them into a different possible timeline, because that's what your story describes, that's what many of us have tried and continue to try to do, is to say, hey, I like your position because you've got this power, you can legislate, you can educate, you can innovate. I'm going to go through you and I'm going to persuade you to change course. and
Mhm.
and what I'm finding, and I'm curious about you and other folks comment, please, is that I'm sort of being pulled away from that calling because I see it as largely fruitless.
Mhm.
I see the systems of power, sort of like you said, it was good that you didn't get elected because that that may have been like a just a, it may have been sort of self-serving. Like, oh, I can, feel noble and banging my head against a steel door, but it's never going to open it.
Mhm.
And I wonder, when I think about protests today, I used to be, an animal rights activist. I would go up to Vail and,
Mhm.
people would boo us and, certainly marched in various
Yeah.
marches in Portland. And, I now look at that and I say, I'm not sure what that's going to do for me or for the
Mhm.
world, more specifically for
Mhm.
the world. I know
Mhm.
it'll do for me. I don't know what it'll do for the world.
Mhm.
And I'm certainly not judging anyone who does or telling you not to. I'm just noticing for myself that there are other avenues when we stop trying to persuade these entrenched um, sort of psychologies and mythologies and systems of leverage to be different than they are. And
Mhm.
that's where I feel alone a little bit, is
Mhm.
because because I'm very much benefiting from the comfortable sides of all those systems. The
Right.
the capitalist system that gives the go ahead to clear cut 100 acres of Oregon forest so
Mhm.
that they can create this neighborhood that I now live in.
Yeah.
The HOA that allows for certain cleanliness and sort of an organization to the noise and the stimulation, which I benefit from for sure.
Mhm.
You know, so that's where this moment meets me, is to say, where does this energy go? And that's in my Substack and in my writing in general, where I sometimes get stuck, like
Mhm.
like I have to have an answer, and I don't think
Yeah.
I think that's
Hmm.
probably, a trap. I don't think I have to have an
Yeah.
answer. I think I need to
Hmm.
live the question. Does that make sense?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yes. Yes. I think for me, the answer is in living the question. And a couple just reflections based on what you said. Like one, the shutdown isn't just I got shut down, and I think we all have stories of being shut down. There's some other like subtle, not subtle ways of, as men, you know, don't cry, don't be weak, don't show emotion, that are woven into, it's just woven into the culture in a way that feels like we learn to not be connected to that deeper self. We shut that down, and that is very personal. Like that's not system. I mean, that's not. I mean, I think it is also cultural, but to me, that's part of where the work is. And
It's
I
a
feel like, and I feel like
personal access point. Yeah.
it's a personal access point. And then and what I noticed, and again, I think you wrestle with this in your writing, it comes through in the characters in the book, and it comes through in the, like their own wrestling with how to, systemic change versus really being inside of like, how do I wrestle with this
Mm.
personally. you know I can't remember the character, the sort of main character's name, when she was, she had these moments of, an indigenous woman, um, you know, being in these places. Her family was killed by the big, military guy. And then she has a moment where she has an opportunity for vengeance, to take him, because he killed her family. And she said, and she had, a knife at his throat.
Mhm.
Said, it would be so easy to just kill him, to get back at him. And she has this internal reckoning of, that's just perpetuating the same thing. And like that
Mm.
wrestling, like that moment is so rich, Jesse. Like it's such
Mm.
a, like that to me is what you just described. And again, it comes through in your writing, of do I want to perpetuate the energy that I put out into the world? Like I want to bring heart and care, and actually do this differently. And she does in that moment. And then they in some interesting way become allies, or become, there's a connection, of, okay, now we're in a different conversation, a different way of connecting to one another, of understanding that we all have reasons for our stuff. And
Yeah.
to me that work is for me is far more valuable than me going to a protest.
Yeah, and I think what you're
Because
naming is like, yeah, thank you for reminding me of my own conviction here too, that it really starts with the personal. Um,
yeah,
I like the idea that at the end of these conversations, I can take sort of a pledge to try something, and maybe you will too, and we can come
yeah,
back
yeah,
and report on it to our listeners and to
yeah.
ourselves and to each other. That,
Hmm.
the change we'd like to see around us starts within us, and that might sound like, kind of a well-worn path, but it's I don't know that it's as well worn in practice as it is in preach. So
Oh, yes.
yeah, it's we and of course, like, all the common tech critiques included, we are very much being reinforced to look at everything around us. It's like we're being groomed to be a generation of victims. um,
Yep.
and so yeah, there's a lot of momentum to go up against, going the
Yep.
opposite way. That's like,
Yep.
let's rage at the things around us, and certainly that has, some systemic merit, but also I don't see the real transformation, those future divergent timelines happening without going through our own consciousness and our own struggle.
Totally. I mean, I was in a conversation last night with a guy in one of the groups where he's trying to be a good dad. He's just really trying to be a good dad. And he's putting himself out and putting himself out. And there's a lot of things falling off in his life. He's not following through on things. He's not eating healthy. He's not sleeping as well as he can. But he's really trying to be there for his son, who's got a lot of special needs, and is having a hard time. And he keeps getting sort of wrapped up in the outrage of the culture, of being like, oh my God, there was a, there was a shooter, around, and like getting all amped up into that.
Mm.
And then missing, so he's running a lot of anxiety around this thing happening in the culture. And that pulls him out of making his bed, eating healthy,
Yeah.
showing, really nourishing himself. And so the way that I like to say it and think of it is like, okay, yeah, I'm really protective of I don't want to get wrapped up in that stuff. And so to me, the making your bed in the morning, that's what we came to, is we came to this place of, and the group committed to it then. So we're going to make our beds, because starting the day with a win is really significant. And
Well,
that
yeah.
idea, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to challenge your. I, I think this is your shorthand, but just so people listening, like when you say win, I think also what I heard in the symbolism of making your bed is starting with a mindful act that respects your most sacred well-being. It's like
Yes,
this is the core place of rest.
yes,
And what a symbol, the bed, right? To be like, I'm going to care for you as you've cared for me. So
yep,
so it's a win in terms of, yes, you did something for yourself. I think that's what you mean, but I just want to make
that's
sure
totally
that
what I mean.
that's fleshed
Yeah,
out.
no, I appreciate the clarity of that, because that really is exactly what I mean. And it's a place of, I was just thinking of this yesterday. Like I was like, because I think about this stuff all the time. Like, how do we support doing this? And I was thinking, you're either on an upward spiral or downward spiral. And so if you make your bed, and then get something in, get some good food, drink some water, brush your teeth, get the day going. You start an upward trajectory of like, I'm doing the things that matter to me. And they start to build on each other, because you start to feel good about it,
Mm,
and good about it, and good about it, and good about it, and good about it. And then they keep going. And if you don't do those things, then it
excuse
spirals,
me.
bless you, the other
And then it
direction.
starts to toilet bowl.
It starts a toilet bowl. And so it's like, so the significance of those little moments is really big, because it actually starts the trajectory in a way that that goes up. And you can do that like today, but then you can do it this week and this month, and like it can expand out. So um so those little tiny gestures, I think they matter. And so just honoring your, remembering of like that they may not seem like we're changing the culture, we're making change. But if each of us does those little things and starts to get that upward spiral going and feel better, then we have more resource to actually start to get to bigger things, if we need to, because we're all more resourced.
So here's my commitment for next time if we do this again,
Yeah.
maybe in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
I've been sort of playing with this notion in, for me it would be like a short sitting session.
Nice.
And so my commitment will be that I'm going to do, before I go for my exercise routine, which is 6 days a week. I'm going out first thing,
Nice.
especially this time of year, especially.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna do a 3-minute sit
Sweet.
minimum.
Yep.
And because what I've been doing is I've been saying, well, I'll go do it once I get in the woods, and that
Mm,
sometimes happens, but then it's also opens the door for just brushing past it,
yeah.
and then the spiral does feel different when I can start it in some contemplative ground, connected with my breath, connected usually with gratitude for
Hmm.
just here's another day that I get to be.
Hmm. Hmm.
um, it does have a ripple. So that's
Hmm.
my commitment.
Sweet. And mine is, I'll join you in that, and I'm going to add just a flavor for me, which is I have this slant board that I'm trying to get my feet healthy and my calves healthy and stretch them out. And I've been avoiding standing on the board for 3 minutes a day. So I'm gonna stand on the board for 3 minutes a day and do my meditation, just that same presencing in that
Yes.
way.
Awesome.
And let's check in with each other along the way. So
Okay.
yes, 2 weeks when we come back. But also let's check in with each other along the way, to just to
I love it.
just easy, just like did my 3 minutes today, and back and forth.
Just a little accountability. It does help
Yeah.
coming back full circle to my my expression of missing some sort of belongingness. I think that, it's easy to feel like nobody cares what I've done or what I haven't done.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that check-in to me is a way of
Mm.
rewriting that story,
Yeah,
that
beautiful.
you
I
do
love
care.
that.
You do care if I
I
do it.
do. I
You
do.
care, you
And I
care
do.
about my well-being. And I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Does feel
And
like a
same.
good
Same.
good culminating point for us today?
Love it. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
This feels good. Yeah. Yeah.
We're
Appreciate
onto
it.
something.
Always. We're on to something. I just always enjoy, yeah, I love spending time with you. So
Oh, thank you. And I with you.
yeah.
And if you
Yeah.
listen to this, thank you so much for your time. We know how much content there is out there, content to consume.
Yeah. Right.
If you're at all, interested in Morgan's work, I highly recommend the Substack and the book that's in the background, the Invitation Beyond. And the reason why is, Morgan, I've been thinking about like what you bring to the Beyonder essays.
Mm.
It's really, to me, it's not only this, I'm sure. To me, what I take is this ongoing invitation
Mm.
into the belief in possibility.
Mm.
And so if you're
Yeah.
somebody who can use these nice, rich doses of invitation into yourself, into um, another perspective of living and
Mm.
being, and it's not like it's radical what we're talking about here. We're like really basic in the sense of what happens if we return to the authority of our own interconnectedness.
Yep.
And so
The
you're
simple
writing you're
sovereign.
writing
Thank
really
you.
you're writing sings,
Mm.
it's not pedestrian. It is like, I imagine you speaking your essays like singing in the streets.
Mm.
So, you
Thank
know,
you.
if somebody listening is in need of that kind of energy, I highly recommend
Mm.
signing up for the Beyonder.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that. Yeah. Again, feel really seen and thanks, man. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right.
Until we meet again.
Till we meet again. Take care.
Thank you all.